You really can simplify your insulin regimen. There's no reason to make it rocket science. In my clinic, I try to make the insulin so simple that a kindergartner or a first grader could do it every day, easily and safely. Safety is really important, and so I don't want people to have to take their insulin and then have dangerous lows, or maybe not take enough insulin and have super dangerous highs. Why do I say so much? So. I like to make it very routine. I know for myself that I screw up my routines because I'm human. For example, I make coffee every morning. Although right now I'm on a 40-day no coffee fast, which is kind of interesting. So I'm making tea a lot. But sometimes I'm so tired when I fall out of bed first thing in the morning that I mess up brewing coffee. I forget to put the pot in the coffee maker so it overflows, or I'll have my cup upside down when I go to pour the coffee. So I screw up something as simple as making coffee that I've been doing for 20 years. I want your insulin program to be simpler than brewing coffee, so that when you're tired, when you're sick, when you're unmotivated, depressed, when you've been binge watching Netflix and all you can think about is Sherlock Holmes or the doctor, I want your insulin program to be just a default routine that is easy and safe. I must go check on my dogs who are running around the backyard. Okay, the dogs are fine. If you need mealtime insulin and 24-hour basal insulin, I like to make it so that you are taking the same doses every day. With mealtime insulin, it is possible to get it confused with your basal insulin. Let's use the example of Lantus and Novolog. If you are taking a normal dose of Lantus, let's say 80 units in the morning, what if you mess up because you're half asleep and you take 80 units of your mealtime insulin? That could be pretty dangerous because 80 units of mealtime insulin is a big dose, and that could crash your blood sugar. This happened to my next door neighbor, actually. He called me in a panic. I actually sent him to the emergency room. He actually did okay because he was so insulin resistant, they just fed him sandwiches for about 4 hours in the emergency room, and then he was fine. But for a lot of people, if you mix up your mealtime insulin with your basal insulin and give the wrong dose, that could be really dangerous. So one suggestion is to keep the two insulins in two different places in the house. Keep your mealtime insulin where you eat your meal. Keep your basal insulin maybe in the bedroom. If you take it at bedtime, that would make sense. Or maybe in the bathroom if you take it first thing in the morning when you're brushing your teeth or whatever, getting ready. So keep them separate. You also have to keep them refrigerated, but they don't have to stay refrigerated forever. So once you open a vial or a tin and you start using it, then I let the dogs back in. So you're going to hear some clomping of little claws on the wood floor. It's really annoying. Okay. Keep the same dose of your mealtime insulin every day. If you eat the same size meal 3 times a day, you can take the same dose of mealtime insulin with each meal. So, an example, you take 60 units of your basal insulin first thing in the morning, then you finally get around to eating breakfast at 10 o'clock. That's when you take your mealtime insulin. After the breakfast is prepared and you're sitting down to eat, that's when you take your fast-acting mealtime insulin like Novolog or Humalog or Apidra. Take the same dose because your breakfast probably doesn't change that much. If you're like most people, you eat the same thing every day or the same amount of food every day for breakfast. Now remember, you should eat breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day, and it should be fat. Okay. Not carbs. Donuts are not food, and they are not fit for human consumption because all they do is create diabetes. Fast-acting carbohydrates make you more hungry and make you gain weight. So eat fat for breakfast and protein. Dog, be quiet. I'm doing a vlog right here. Seriously, the bowl's empty. Why are you licking at it? I probably fed the dogs too much carbs and now they're carb craving again. Sometimes a patient eats one meal a day that's a lot bigger than the other meals. I do this sometimes. Actually, a lot of my meals, if I mainly eat fat for breakfast and for lunch, then my supper is a big meal. You may do a higher dose of mealtime insulin with your big meal of the day. Often I will have patients check their blood sugar 2 hours after they take their mealtime insulin and eat. So 2 hours later, the blood sugar should be coming back down. We'll check the blood sugar then, write it down in your book, or if you have an app, that would be great to track your blood sugar and what time you gave your insulin and what you ate. Then, if your blood sugars are still high after every lunch, for example, we could increase your lunchtime dose of insulin. One lady that I saw last week, her mealtime morning insulin is 10 units. For lunch, she takes 15 units because that's her big meal of the day. And then for supper, she only takes 10 units. And that is working actually really well for her. If you eat the same amount for 3 meals, you can take the same amount. 10 units, 10 units, and 10 units of mealtime insulin with meals. So you don't have to do sliding scales. And the cool thing about type 2 diabetes research has shown that even just one dose of mealtime insulin along with a basal insulin will really lower your A1C. So you don't have to take a 4th dose with snacks, and you don't have to even, if you are really opposed to taking shots and you hate shots, you could do a daily basal insulin and then 1 mealtime insulin shot. And the same units. Don't go getting crazy checking your blood sugar and trying to figure out how many units to take. Just take the same dose every day. 10 or 15 units of mealtime insulin may not be enough, but you will get your A1C down quite a few points if you're taking your basal insulin and 1 meal of mealtime insulin. So that is a super simple insulin program, right? 1 shot in the morning for basal insulin, 1 shot with supper. That's 2 shots a day. And you technically don't have to check your blood sugar if you're not motivated. I like you to check your blood sugar several times a day is great. But once you're on a routine and you're on a decent dose of basal insulin and a decent mealtime insulin, things are not going to change unless you start exercising. Suddenly you decide to start CrossFit and you hadn't been doing that before. If you're going to start CrossFit, you need to check your blood sugar a lot more frequently because you're going to be lowering your insulin needs a lot. So if you start training for a marathon and you're running 16 miles a day, your insulin, you're going to have to watch your blood sugars. But if things haven't changed and you're just doing the routine, same amount of exercise, basically the same meals, you can set it and forget it. Take the same simple dose of mealtime insulin and a simple dose of daily insulin, basal insulin. You don't have to get crazy with 1,000,000 shots a day and checking your blood sugar and doing a ton of calculations. When you have chronic health problems, sometimes it feels like your brain doesn't work correctly. You get this fog, you just get sick of it. Sick of being sick, or sick of giving shots, sick of checking your blood sugar, and that's okay. I want your insulin to be simple enough that even on days when you're sick of it, you still can keep doing it, because it's a routine, like putting on your seatbelt. Should be a routine so that you can't actually even imagine driving without your seatbelt on. So the same true, you can't imagine leaving the house without taking your basal insulin. When you get into that routine, because your routine is simple and doable, it will become a habit, and then you're going to see your A1C come down, your health is going to improve, and you can start working on all the other less routine things. So when a patient of mine gets discharged from the hospital and somebody put them on a complicated sliding scale, the first thing I do is tell them to stop the sliding scale and just do a set dose of insulin. I'm a lot less critical of with type 1 diabetes, because I don't know as much about it. I'm not that much of a specialist. So if an endocrinologist or somebody tells you to do a sliding scale or whatever, I'm going to tell you to do what they told you to do. But if you're depressed and you're unmotivated and you're having trouble keeping your insulin program going, then I'd say simplify it. Carb counting, I like, because it makes you look at the foods that you are eating. However, carbs are bad. So why are you eating them in the first place? Don't eat carbs. Now, carb counting, instead of doing a sliding scale, counting the carbs and then changing your insulin dose, that is what a confusing bunch of crap. I wouldn't advise it. I never start that for a patient. If they want to do it because they're already doing it or they're in a routine of doing that, that's fine. But I've never met anybody that wants to do it for a very long period of time. So I'm okay with you doing it for a little while, especially so you can get used to paying attention to the number of carbs and how much insulin that might require. But there's no sense in doing that or making that a lifelong plan that you're gonna count carbs for the rest of your freaking life. If you have to live this life for another 60 years, you're gonna wanna count carbs for 60 freaking years? No, I don't think so. You shouldn't be eating carbs anyway. I don't like carb counting. I do like tracking your diet and measuring your diet. And like Timothy Ferriss does, he measures his food and counts the calories and calculates it all out. That's good, and tracking is awesome. And there are wonderful apps for that. I really like MyFitnessPal. Please send me money, because it actually works. But there are probably a lot of other apps. Dogs. This is not the time to start a wrestling match. Simplify your insulin program to make it successful. Simplify your life in every other way also. If you want to become a fitness person, you have to build it into your schedule. You have to put it on your calendar. If you got your Microsoft Outlook or your Google Calendar, block out 2 hours. Make sure you block out enough time to get to the gym, to change clothes, to take a shower, to lay on the floor in painful agony because you ran too far, to eat extra food. Build it into your schedule every day, and then it becomes a routine, and then it becomes easy. Same with cooking healthy. If you plan ahead, somebody says, well, I ate pasta because that's all that was in the fridge. Well, you didn't plan ahead because there shouldn't have been pasta in your house. So if you ate pasta because that's all that was in the house, why didn't you throw it out to start with? Get rid of the pasta, don't have it in the house, then your only option is to cook something healthy, right? And plan ahead, make it part of your routine, so when you're at the grocery store, you only go around the outside of the store, you don't go where all the processed crap is, you just buy the fresh veggies, the fresh meats, and the fats. Then that's all you have in the house. It's part of your routine. You get up in the morning, you eat fats, maybe some protein, some eggs and chicken, bacon. When you get home from work and you're too tired to think about cooking, all you have available is healthy greens and meats. So you just throw it on the grill, or maybe cook it ahead of time. That's what I usually do. I I like to cook a week in advance. So when I come home and I'm too tired to eat healthy, all I have is something healthy that I already cooked. Some leftover chicken, vegetables, maybe a fresh salad that I bought that's enough to last through the whole week. So I just have to grab a handful of lettuce, throw it on a plate, throw on a bunch of sunflower seeds, throw on some olive oil and some vinegar, and maybe something sweet like some dried blueberries, and then I have a meal, and it's fast and it's healthy. So make it part of your system, make it simple so that you're not just going to do it for 1 or 2 days and then give up. Make it so that it's so easy that you do it week in and week out, and it doesn't even faze you. You don't even notice that it's a time investment. I need to stop talking now. Did I say so a little bit less? So. I need to stop saying so all of the time. Like, so, like.